We got the poetess. And what's those stones called right there? Like the Stonehenge and whatnot. A part of that European culture. Let's see what's going on here in this procession.
Quite the event, hmm?
Spared no expense, that much is clear.
Ara, my lady, one of the priests has gone missing. A violent mess is left of his tent. I fear something terrible has happened.
Missing? Are you sure?
Could be nothing. Could mean danger. Where's Flon?
He's not yet arrived.
That gives us some time. Kira, act as if nothing were amiss.
Kiera, wow.
Gareth and I will look into it. Where is this tent?
I thought it was Sierra.
Up the hill,
Sierra.
to the left.
Okay.
Be careful.
So what I want to say is, I'm pretty sure if I looked it up, that king, his name was Battered, B-A-R-I-D. I'm pretty sure he would be a realistic person. So let me just see really quickly. I'm gonna go into the codex. We're gonna start this thing off with the information. Y'all know how we do. This is all geographical right now. So I guess it will have to start off with the geography for the most part and get to know the different groups. But let me see if King Barrett, Europe. Let's see if he's a real person. Yeah, he was the King of Dublin. So Barrett Mac Imayar, I don't really know how to say his name. Was a 9th century king of Dublin. He was a son of Ivar Ragnarsson and a member of the, I can't even say these words, but he reigned from 873 to 881. So that's the time of Baghdad being at its peak with the what's it called, the Abbasids. So while that's going on in Baghdad, you have King Barrett reigning in Ireland. And let me drop this in the Discord. Let me drop that in the Discord. King Barrett. Okay, so dang, what would be appropriate for this to start off? Because I really should be in the other portion. Alright, let's go into this. Why not? Vikings. In Old Norse, a Vikinger was a Norse man or woman who went raiding for gain and glory, both for themselves and their clan. To go a Viking was one of the most exhilarating feats of bravery anyone could imagine. Over time, the word Viking became a general term to describe the hordes of Norsemen who raided and settled various parts of Europe between the 8th and 11th centuries. Somewhat less barbaric than their initial depictions, Vikings were in fact part of a larger and more complex social structure, as likely to trade with another culture instead of killing them. So the Vikings would give you an ultimatum. So the bandits groups thrived in the 9th century and were found all across the 7 kingdoms. They were mostly made up of the impoverished, the disenfranchised, and the plain scoundrels who sought to make a living off violence and intimidation. So these Picts people, right? I said their name the other day and I can't remember who they were. But here we go. The Picts are a confederation of Celtic peoples who lived in what is now called Scotland. The Picts were on their way out by the time the Vikings invaded England in the 9th century. A proud people who had been Christianized roughly in parallel with the Saxons of the south. They nevertheless fought to maintain their independence from them for as long as they could. So it seems like they moved north. Would that be fair? These Pict people, they moved north. And then it says the Saxons were in the south. Okay. Okay. The Britons. The Britons. Hostile to both Saxons and the Norse. The Britons came from a cluster of kingdoms along England's western border that would coalesce to become modern Wales. Okay. The western border that would become modern Wales. Because of their independent spirit and distinctive language, the Britons were often in conflict with both Mercia and Wessex. During the 8th century, King Offa of Mercia established a border in the form of a long earthwork, more like a ditch really. In the 9th century, Rhodri ap Merfyn rose to assimilate several other kingdoms in the nascent step to forming Wales, thus becoming known as King of the Britons. His nimble forces countered both Mercian and Viking invaders. Okay, so these people, they came from a cluster of kingdoms along the west. What we know today as Wales. They had their own language. They were very independent. And they had conflict with the Vikings and the Saxons. Sorry, the Norse and the Saxons. Okay. The Irish. Embroiled in a seemingly endless turf war, the northern and southern Irish clashed with one another over the high kingship for centuries, with power changing hands between two branches of dynastic families. The northern Uí Néill and southern Uí Néill. When in power, the Irish to the north ruled out of Ulster, while those to the south ruled from the kingdom of Meath. Throughout the 9th century, the escalating tensions between the two sides may not have disappeared, but the arrival of the Danes and subsequent Viking raids garnered the attention of all Christian-blooded Irishmen. Hold on, let me turn this brightness down. Under how you say that? Under Aed Findlaith, the Irish successfully fought off the Vikings in the 9th century, and in 866 cleared them of Ulster almost entirely. What followed was a period of relief from Danish incursions, but it was also the resumption of the age-old war for Ireland's throne. Okay, so the Irish, they had their own internal struggle between the North and the South, right? Oh, 1 second, I just got paid, y'all. Okay. Yeah. Gotta get paid. Hold on, let me check this address real quick, y'all. My bad. Gotta see where I'm going. I'm not too familiar with this part, but this is right where I grew up. Hold on. This is right. Hold on. Crap. Okay, I see where I'm going. I see where I'm going. Going to the hood. We in the hood. Alright. Let's keep it going, man. The Frankish military. The Frankish military were the most effective fighting force of their time, and the first to use organized cavalry. It's no wonder that, under the direction of Count Odo, they proved more than a match for the Norse invaders. Siegfried may have hated them, but he was forced to respect them. So they're saying the Franks, which I believe are the French, they were a force to be reckoned with. And they gave the Vikings trouble. So the Vikings had trouble with the Irish, and oh, what's going on, Sakina Ra? My bad, I'm over here learning about these Europeans. So it seemed like Let me make sure. Let me make sure I know what I'm talking about. See, I got to get my AI assistant up real quick. She gonna talk to me. Just a second. In history, who were the Frankish people of the 9th century?
The Frankish people of the 9th century were a group of Germanic tribes who played a crucial role in European history. They established the Carolingian Empire, which was a significant power in Western Europe. Under the reign of Charlemagne, who was crowned Emperor of the Romans in 800, the Franks unified much of Western and Central Europe. The empire faced internal divisions and external pressures, and after Charlemagne's death, it eventually fragmented into separate kingdoms, leading to the formation of modern European states.
So, are they the French people? Where does this Frank...
It was nice talking to you. Take care.
Damn, I wasn't even done. Bring your ass back here. The hell? I got more questions. So where does the name Frankish come from? Is that an allusion to French?
The term Frankish comes from the Franks, a group of Germanic tribes that inhabited parts of modern-day France and Germany during the early Middle Ages. The name Frankish is not an allusion to modern French, though the Franks are indeed part of the historical roots of France. The French language and culture developed later and were influenced by various elements, including the Latin spoken during the Roman Empire and the Germanic languages of the Franks.
I ain't even gonna lie, I still don't really understand. I'm not even gonna lie, I still don't really understand. She said something about, modern, she said something about France and Germany of today, but the Frankish people predated our modern states of France and Germany, and their dissemination or their breakup is what led to modern European states. I understood that part. Hold on, I need her to summarize it for me again. Can you give me a better summary of who the Frankish people are and be short with the summary?
The Frankish people were a coalition of Germanic tribes that emerged in the 3rd century. They played a crucial role in European history, especially under leaders like Charlemagne, who expanded their territory into a vast empire. The Franks are considered the founders of modern France and Germany.
See? Okay, so they're considered the founders of modern France and Germany, and you said they're a coalition of Germanic tribes. What does Germanic mean? Is that just a language group?
Germanic refers to a group of peoples and their languages that originated in Northern Europe. It encompasses a variety of tribes, including the Franks, Goths, Vandals, and Saxons, among others. Germanic languages include English, German, Dutch, and the Scandinavian languages. So while Germanic does refer to languages, it also denotes a shared cultural and ethnic heritage among these tribes.
So you said that these Germanic peoples come from the north. Would they be related to the Norse people that later became known for going a Viking?
Yes, the Germanic peoples are related to the Norse people. The Norse, who later became known for their Viking activities, are a specific branch of the Germanic peoples. They originated in Scandinavia and shared linguistic and cultural ties with other Germanic groups. The Vikings are particularly known for their maritime expeditions during the Viking Age, which spanned
Okay. Don't go on too far. Okay. When did the Frankish people leave the north and settle in what you said was France and Germany?
The Frankish people began migrating from their original homelands in what is now Germany to the Roman province of Gaul, which mostly corresponds to modern France around the 3rd century AD. They gradually settled in these regions, establishing the foundations of what would later become modern France and parts of Germany.
Okay, so I understand now. Yeah, not Frank like the hot dogs again. Okay, I understand now. I understand who they are. It's a coalition of tribes. They're originally from the north. They settled in what we know as Germany slash France area in the 3rd century AD. This is what she said. All right. So that's good. So what about their rebels? Frankish rebels. And a lot of times they'd be the same people by different names, right? She also said they're literally related to the Norse people, which we later in history call Vikings. It's just that these Frankish people, they migrated earlier and separated from those Norse groups that we later know as Vikings, right? Frankish rebels. Charles had many enemies, not least of which was a rebellion of former king's soldiers and freedom fighters. Angered by their ineffectual monarch and his loyalists, the motley group found an unlikely leader in Pierre, known to mark even the smallest victory with indulgent celebration. If they didn't win their freedom, they would drown in wine. So let's see who is King Charles as it pertains to...
You're welcome.
Oh my God. Who is King Charles as it pertains to the Frankish people?
King Charles, often known as Charlemagne or Charles the Great, was a Frankish king who ruled in the late 8th and early 9th centuries. He expanded the Frankish kingdom into a vast empire and was crowned Emperor of the Romans in 800 AD, marking the revival of the Western Roman Empire. Charlemagne is a key figure in European history, known for his role in shaping the cultural and political landscape of medieval Europe.
Is he the one that had the 3 sons that he had to divide the kingdom to?
Yes, that's correct. Charlemagne's empire was eventually divided among his grandsons, the sons of his son, Louis the Pious. The Treaty of Verdun in 843 AD split the empire into 3 parts, leading to the formation of distinct territories that would influence the future of Europe, including modern France and Germany.
See, we got to get this European history. I know it's vague, it's ambiguous. We don't really understand what the hell is going on in Europe. But I really like studying this medieval history because this is what predates the transatlantic slave trade. Y'all understand me now? This is why I do this way. I lead up to the transatlantic slave trade. And some people might be like, why aren't you studying America? Well, shit, if you black and you're not a quote-unquote aboriginal, you don't believe that we're over there or over here yet, right? So you gotta study what predates the slave trade in order to understand the conditions that led to the slave trade. So now I'm looking at what was going on in Europe before we get to 1492, before we get to 1513 and all these other 1619. We're seeing that Europe was largely fragmented. It had a bunch of tribes, right? They still had tribes. After Rome fell is when you get the rise of new kingdoms. Whoa. So this is why I love this, because I like exploring what happened prior to the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. That's me personally. Yeah. So the Bellators Dei, I know Dei means like deity, right? Or God, or Deus is like God. So Bellators Dei, and I gotta wait for Kareem to come in here because this is dealing with Kareem's language. He's a Berber, but he speaks French because the French had their dealings with the Algerians and the colonialism. So a secretive group of religious zealots, the Bellators Dei, were intent upon casting the devil out of Francia one exorcism at a time. The group was led by a brilliant scholar known only by the pseudonym Isidore Mercator, who wrote the false decretals that hoodwinked Christendom for 1,000 years. Now, I'm going to be real. I didn't understand that. I really didn't understand that. So I'm going to ask the AI. Hi, I want to read something to you, and I need you to break it down for me.
Sure, go ahead and read it to me, and I'll help you break it down.
So, Bellatores Dei, a secretive group of religious zealots, the Bellatores Dei were intent upon casting the devil out of Francia, one exorcism at a time. The group was led by a brilliant scholar known only by the pseudonym Isidore Mercator, who wrote the false decretals that hoodwinked Christendom for 1,000 years. Can you tell me about these false decretals and break down this paragraph for me?
The false decretals are a collection of forged documents, supposedly created in the 9th century, that were attributed to earlier popes. These documents aimed to bolster the authority of the Church and the papacy by presenting fabricated historical precedents. Isidore Mercator, mentioned here, is a pseudonym for the supposed author of these false decretals. The paragraph you read describes the Bellatores Dei as a secretive religious group focused on exorcising evil from Francia, a region that roughly corresponds to modern France and parts of Germany, led by a scholar using the name Isidore Mercator. The use of the false decretals suggests an attempt to manipulate religious and political power, casting a long-lasting influence on Christendom.
All right, so I just muted. Now watch. See? Now this is where I do my cross comparison, where I do my comparative analysis, right? Y'all know I was doing a lot of research in Baghdad, Iraq. When I read this, I could already compare it to something during its day, but just in a different region of the world. Now watch, I'm going to show y'all what I'm talking about. Can you compare the false decretals to what went on with the Abbasid Caliphates, where certain hadith were being forged? Can she not hear me? Hello? Hello? Alright, she playing deaf. Hold on. Hello, can you hear me? Alright, hold on. I gotta cancel out and then come back. She went deaf. Is there a comparison between the false decretals by Isidore Mercator that hoodwinked Christendom to what went on in Abbasid Caliphate Iraq, where the caliphs were scheduling scholars to forge hadith in order to boost their influence?
Yes, there are some historical comparisons that can be drawn between the false decretals by Pseudo-Isidore in the Christian context and the alleged fabrication of hadiths in the Abbasid Caliphate. The false decretals were a collection of forged documents, falsely attributed to early popes, that were used to bolster the authority of the Church and the papacy in particular. Similarly, it's alleged that some Abbasid caliphs encouraged the fabrication of hadiths, the sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad, to legitimize their rule and policies. Both scenarios involved the manipulation of religious texts to serve political agendas, though the contexts and details differ significantly. The use of religious authority to justify political power is a theme that can be observed in various historical contexts.
Can you repeat that? The use of religious authority, what?
Sure. The use of religious authority to justify political power is a theme that can be observed in various historical contexts.
I like that right there. I like that one right there. That's what I've been coming across lately. The use of religious authority to justify political power, which means that sometimes these political leaders would lie, alter, change religious documents for their own purposes, for their own gain, for their own political gain. So that's the comparison I was making. I've seen it with the Khalifa in Baghdad, and now I'm seeing it here with the Frankish people, with the Christians over here, with the Frankish people. So we know they was doing the same thing, even though she said, the AI said, you know, the reasons and the details are a little bit different. They were still doing the same thing, and I know that's no surprise to people, but I got the details. I got the details on it. You know, I wanna go more into the history. But these are the factions right here. I don't want to get too much into the mythology though. So is there anyone else that I could bring out that's not mythological? I don't think so. Let me see. I think all these people as well. Alright, so here's what we're gonna do. Here's how I gotta do this. That's people. I gotta take us over here. We gotta go somewhere a little bit different. So we're gonna back to the title screen. Yeah, Sakina Ra. I said this already. You know, I already did the Egypt game. I don't know if there's the same example in Egypt of. Yeah, that would be interesting. Is there the use of religious authority to justify political power in Egypt? I do eventually want to go, like the same way I went deep into Iraq and Islamic history. I want to do the same thing with Europe, which is what I'm doing now. And I want to do the same thing with Egypt as well. The problem with Egypt for me is that it's so long ago, right? And you know, I try to focus on leading right up to the transatlantic slave trade. So that's where I kind of get lost with the Egypt, because I'm like, it's so long ago. This is like 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, and that trips me up because I haven't bridged the gap yet. I haven't gone back to the 300s. I haven't gone back to the 200s. I haven't gone to the 400s. I've really been working between like the 500s and the 1500s. But when you talk about ancient Egypt, man, the time span is so vast, and there's so much that happened. Like, I also gotta deal with Rome. If I'm gonna deal with Egypt, I can't not deal with Rome, right? I already know about the Arabs in Egypt, but that's so much later. That's like way later and after the fact, right? The Arabs were one of the last ones to take over Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. And I know the British took over for a little bit too, and the Ottomans. The Arabs, then the Ottomans, I'm pretty sure. The Arabs, the Ottomans, then the British. But before the Arabs, it may have been... Damn, I can't even remember who was right before the Arabs. But we know definitely like the Greeks and the Romans, for example. So yeah, it's just so much in between. You know what I mean? There's so much to cover in between where it's just... Gotta piece it together first. Politics was a part of religion. This is where laws root from. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100%. I know they are intertwined, they're intermarried, they overlap, they're conjoined. But what I'm looking at is how after these figures say die, for example, like if we use Jesus for example, right? We know later, well, during his time, the Romans were his enemies. And then after the fact, they adopted Christianity as a state religion. With, what was it, Constantine? So I'm looking at stuff like that. And then because of that, you got to be careful and say, well, if they're adopting this as a state religion, there are definitely texts that are going to be forged. Because at one point, what we called Christendom or whatever was the adversary to the state, and then hundreds of years later the state adopts it. You can't convince me that this state adopted it without forging certain things to benefit the political rule of the state. And the same thing goes with Islam and the Khalifa after the fact. We got evidence that the Khalifas began to forge documents and whatnot. All right, here we go. This is where I want it to be. Excuse me. This is where I want it to be. Because now I could get into a different codex. Look at these. Are these like friars? I think you call them friars or whatever. These people. This is where I want to be. This codex right here. Boom. Now look at this. We got a whole different. We want to go into religion and magic? We're going to religion and magic. We go into religion and magic. How about church power structure? Let me not skip ahead. It says the church divided the Christian world into dioceses, each overseen by a bishop. Okay, so the bishop oversees a diocese. Hold on, let me ask her a question. What is a diocese, and what is the etymology of the word?
A diocese is a district under the pastoral care of a bishop in the Christian church. The term comes from the Latin word diocesis, which in turn originates from the Greek word dioecesis, meaning administration or province. Initially, it referred to a governmental area in the Roman Empire and was later adopted by the church to describe the jurisdiction of a bishop.
Okay, so that doesn't have any allusion to a number? Doesn't mean 10 or anything like that?
That's correct. The term diocese doesn't have any connection to the number 10. The di prefix in this context comes from Greek and relates to administration or management rather than indicating a number. It's a common misconception.
Okay. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Okay. So the bishop was charged with ruling the diocese, which is a province, and ensuring the spiritual care of the faithful living in it. Okay. So it says the church in Anglo-Saxon Britain dated back to the Roman era. Centuries later, it was the sole surviving imperial institution on the island. Okay. Sole surviving imperial institution on the island. Its structure, however, continued to change long after the Romans left. The departure of the Romans from the territory in the 5th century upset the power structure of the church. When Anglo-Saxon Britain became Christian, it seemed at first that each of the kingdoms would have their own bishop. This meant that some bishops ended up controlling enormous amounts of people and land, too much. Theodore of Tarsus, the Archbishop of Canterbury, managed to set things right, reorganizing the bishops and splitting the colossal diocese of York into 3 parts. Okay, so I can read that and say, they had organizational difficulties and administrative difficulties once the Romans departed the territory. So then it took this Theodore of Tarsus, the Archbishop of Canterbury, to reinstall or reorganize and manage this territory better. When the Scandinavian Great Heathen Army reached the shores of Anglo-Saxon Britain, there were roughly 16 dioceses and 2 archdioceses on the island. They can be seen on the map. So, y'all know I like to go through this and see if I could find any... Wow, look at that. I already found it. So what I like to do when I'm dealing with Britain or Europe, because I live in New England, I like to see all the similar place names. And I could see a few. So we don't have Sherborne, but we have Bourne. We have Winchester. Canterbury might be like New Hampshire or Vermont. I don't think we got one in we probably do have one in Massachusetts, but it's probably tiny. Rochester, we know that's in New York, but there's probably a Rochester in Western Massachusetts. I don't think we have a London in Massachusetts, but I wouldn't be surprised. We probably got all of these place names in Massachusetts, to tell you the truth. But I'm not very familiar with Western Mass. I know Western Mass a little bit. I'm only familiar with Central Massachusetts to Eastern Massachusetts. I know Rhode Island, and I know Connecticut a little bit. And I know New Hampshire a little bit. Now, Vermont and Maine's a little bit different. That's going way further up. But we have a Leicester. And most people would look at these words and will not know how to pronounce them. I know how to pronounce them because we got them here. So even people here will say something like Leicester. And I'm like, where's the H? There's no H in there. Why are you saying Leicester? But they've actually done some funny videos on like TikTok and Instagram Reels where they'll take Massachusetts place names and they'll have someone from like down south try to pronounce it and they'll butcher it so bad. Now this one, number 7, everyone gets this one wrong. Everyone gets that one wrong. I'm not even gonna say it. And that's about it that we got. But yeah, number 7 is actually Worcester. But everyone will say Worcester. And I'm like, where's the H, bro? There's no H. Why are you calling it Worcester? But I only know this because I'm from here. Now, there are other Massachusetts place names where it's like, if I wasn't from here, I would not know how to say it because it doesn't make any goddamn sense. What did you say, Sakina? Stop separating them. That didn't happen until the Christians killed Jesus? Well, I don't even know what you meant by that. I'm late on that one. Okay, here we go. Bishops, a divided duty. So I guess we're getting into like the more religious aspect on this stream of Europe, medieval Europe. So bishops, a divided duty. She's going to tell me what a bishop is. What is a bishop?
A bishop is a high-ranking clergy member in many Christian denominations. Bishops are responsible for overseeing a diocese, providing spiritual leadership, and performing certain religious rites, such as ordaining priests. They often have authority over other clergy within their diocese and play a key role in the governance of the church.
In chess, what directions does a bishop move?
In chess, a bishop moves diagonally across the board. It can move any number of squares in a diagonal direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that's a bishop. I understand fully. I'm fully aware what the bishop is. It oversees the diocese. A diocese is just a province. She said sometimes they perform certain rites. Okay, here we go. Anglo-Saxon bishops were far more than religious leaders in their given territories. They were also political elites. Sometimes they found themselves caught between the two roles. Okay, so they were not only religious, they had... Oh shit, she was listening to me that whole time.
That's correct. In Anglo-Saxon England, bishops
All right,
were indeed...
be quiet, be quiet, be quiet.
Got it. Let me know if you need anything else.
I forgot to mute. But, okay, so bishops, they not only had a religious responsibility, they also had a political role as well. And sometimes they found themselves caught between the two roles. So here we go. Let's look at this here. I forgot to do this. Give the image credits. This is Saint Cuthbert meets King Ecgfrith of Northumbria. Okay, so the king is obviously the one on the right, and Cuthbert is the one on the left, dressed in black. This is an illustration taken from Beds, Prose Vita S. Cuthberti. This is dated somewhere between 1175 and 1200. This is from the British Library, London, United Kingdom. Make sure y'all hit the like button, please. Takes 2 seconds. All right, let's get into this reading. Christian bishops were responsible for guiding the faithful in their dioceses towards salvation. They ensured that the sacred rites were performed in their communities during marriages, funerals, and masses. Through the sacraments, bishops could channel the grace of God to every Christian. Christianity and the church were considered one and the same, and the bishop held the church's power in his domain. Okay, I gotta slow this down. So they ensured the rituals were performed during marriages, funerals, and masses. Okay. They channeled the grace of God to Christians. However, a bishop's religious duties sometimes conflicted with his earthly ones. Anglo-Saxon bishops were members of the ruling elite, and it was in their interest to protect and preserve that elite. What was best for the elite was not always what was best for the common people, the faithful Christians in the diocese. Bishops were also representatives of the Roman Church. It's initially a foreign institution. At the same time, they were private counselors to Anglo-Saxon kings, expected to help enforce and expand their dominion. Bishops served multiple masters, and sometimes they could be caught between their duty to one and their duty to another. However, kings also had a duty to God. In this illustration, a king visits Saint Cuthbert, who in life had been the bishop of Lindisfarne, that the king comes to the saint and not the other way around. Suggests that the saint is the more powerful of the two, and is painted to emphasize the influence of the church over secular authorities. Wow. Okay. And I think I understand that. That influence, I believe, was also similar in West Africa, where the king was seen as being endowed with this spiritual power, right? And he not only had a spiritual influence upon him, but of course he had political duties. This here seems like it's more separated. You know, you got the king and then you got the, what's it called, the bishop. There's something here that I want to clarify for myself. The king visits Saint Cuthbert, who in life had been the bishop. Okay, the king comes to the saint, not the other way around. Okay. Bishops served multiple masters. Sometimes they could be caught between their duty to one and their duty to another. Okay. Okay, I understand it. So you almost need to look at this from, well, obviously, look at this from the perspective of the bishop. On one hand, he's supposed to be performing these rituals and guiding people on a spiritual path, right? And then on the other regard, the king is coming to him for advice. So now he has a political responsibility. And a lot of times it was saying that the political responsibility would trump over the common person. Um, I want her to give me an example. When it comes to bishops having a divided duty between spiritual salvation and also being an advisor to the kings, what is an example during medieval Europe where a bishop had to trump over the common person in order to serve a king?
One example is Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury in the 12th century. Initially a close friend and advisor to King Henry II of England, Becket famously clashed with the king over the rights and privileges of the church. Despite his initial loyalty to the crown, Becket prioritized his spiritual duties and the autonomy of the church, which led to his murder by followers of the king. This conflict exemplifies the delicate balance bishops had to maintain between their spiritual responsibilities and their roles as political figures.
What did kings need bishops for?
Kings in medieval Europe needed bishops for several reasons. Bishops were influential spiritual leaders who could help legitimize a king's rule by providing religious endorsement. They also played key roles in administration and governance, often acting as advisors or diplomats due to their education and literacy. Moreover, bishops could mobilize support among the populace and the nobility, making them valuable allies in maintaining stability and order.
Damn, okay, I understand. So, because, okay, again, it's that whole religion holding a lot of influence, right? The king realizes that the bishop's influence on the common person is far stronger than the king himself. So he uses the bishop for that, and also he says he uses the bishop for diplomacy, right? Almost as an ambassador. And that makes sense because I was just, I'm always talking the truth, and I'm like, yo, Christianity comes from the Middle East, and we're talking about how it spread into Europe. I looked it up because, I was under the impression that Christianity came down hard on the European tribes, right? And I'm not saying there weren't battles, right, in wars and whatnot, but a lot of it was diplomatic, sending, what are Christian diplomats called? Let me ask the damn AI. I forget. Evangelists, right? Like evangelists and people like that. Like they were influential in the Christianization of Europe. It wasn't just a bloodbath, so to speak, or a spread of Christianity by the sword. And again, I think, in saying that, a lot of people, it takes a second for it to click that Christianity was foreign to Europe, right? And it came from the Middle East. And I brought that up because, I only hear it come from one perspective, how what religion did to Africa, right? We always hear about what religion did to Africa. Nobody talks about what religion did in Europe. Now, if someone told me religion was more destructive in Africa, I would agree with them, but I would also say, well, the reason for that is because we're seeing the later stages of imperialism. It's not just because of religion. It's because these states, and I'm going to call them states, but these European nations or Arab nations or whatever you want to call them, they got to the point where they advanced past small little tribal organizations. Now we're in the latter stages of imperialism. And then as you go further into the medieval times, there's more cross-cultural contact. There's innovations in technology and all these different things. And because of that, I think that's what lacquered on Africa harder than what happened in Europe to the indigenous tribes of Europe. But I just bring that out to say there were indigenous tribes of Europe. And if you ask a white person what tribe they come from, they not going to be able to tell you. So I get a little bit tired of people asking black people, oh, if you African, what tribe you come from? You ask that shit to a European, they ain't going to be able to tell you. What were they from the Picts? Were they, what were they? They don't even think like that. Oh, yeah, I come from the such and such tribe. So I don't get caught up in the whole tribe thing. The Old Minster. The Old Minster. The Old Minster, huh? And see, man, life is so nice. Life is always given. That's one of my new slogans. I get to kick back on my video game, and I learn so much. And I look at my phone, and there's a new payment. It's always awesome. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, let me respond to this text. Hold on, y'all. Alright. So, the Old Minster. The Old Minster was the first cathedral or bishop's seat of Winchester. And I told y'all we got a Winchester in Massachusetts. The first cathedral. Okay, so it's a cathedral. We know what it is. Or bishop's seat of Winchester. So we know the bishop's seat is in a cathedral. The first bishop to settle there was Wine, or Wine, or Wine, or Winey. I don't know how to say his name. A Saxon, Wine, I'm going to just call him Wine, would eventually become the Bishop of London. So let's go into it. The first cathedral church of Wessex was built around 640 CE by King Kinwalch of Wessex and Saint Birinus, a Frankish missionary. Though it was further north in Dorchester-on-Thames rather than in Winchester, by the way, there's a Dorchester in Massachusetts. When the bishop's seat was moved to Winchester a few years later, the Old Minster may have been the first stone building erected in Winchester since the departure of the Romans, hundreds of years earlier. So this is an in-game shot, okay? However, the church would have felt far more cramped at the time, as the building itself was narrower, with many side chapels and altars in the corners. Burning incense and smoke from the tapers would have also given it a sultry atmosphere. Okay. I've read Christianization. I've read the church power structure. I read about the bishops, and we just read the Old Minster. I also read about the Harmingia. You guys must have missed that one. I want to stay on the topic of religion in this stream. I may have to do a mission in the damn game to get there. But let's, why not? We could go into farming. Let me go into farming real quick. So Anglo-Scandinavian farming. No. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to go into that. I want to stay on the topic of religion, if I can. I read about the rune stones already, so y'all gonna have to be patient. I'm gonna try to get y'all some more religious information, which means that I gotta find it. So, actually, it's close by. Church power structure. Here we go. Oh, I read that one already. All right, let me try to find some more points. The legendary brothers, the seven kingdoms. Okay, I've done these already. Baptism and victory. Did I do this one? Yep, I did this one. Okay, all these check marks are the ones that I already did. So I'm gonna have to go over here to get some new ones. Dividing the land, the megalith. I did those ones. Alright, let me see if there's still more somewhere. In the game, you gotta like just go to certain points to unlock the facts. So a lot of times it's like you'll go to a church and they'll give you the information about the church. So you're like, here, there's probably something in there if I didn't already unlock it. That's very interesting though. I'm enjoying this, learning about Europe. At first I wasn't very interested, but over time it's really not so bad. Alright, I don't think I'm gonna find anything else. I think I pretty much got everything in this area. So where else can I go? Let's try to push ahead forward. When it comes to punishment, alright, I should have did the unlocking before I came on the live, but let's see what else I can get unlocked on the spot. Oh, they got some little side facts over here. The word Viking. Okay, here we go. So look, he's on top of a damn church right now. Damn, did I unlock all of them over here? It looked like I may have unlocked all of them over here. Oh, there's two over here. That's where I was gonna go. So I was gonna hit these two facts. But I don't think they have to do with the church. I'm trying to stay on the topic of this damn church. Oh, there we go. Here's one right here. Alright, so we're gonna go to that one. See what that one is. Let's go get this information. Alright, so we're gonna go over there. You know, it's so crazy. I could jump off and he ain't gonna die because this is just a tour. Watch this. Oh, he done jumped in the damn thing. Never mind. Alright, so let's go get this fact over here. Let's see what it is. So I remember in high school I took AP European history, and you know, ironically now I can't really tell you too much about it because it's like I forgot everything, but I remember learning about like John Locke and like the Renaissance. You know what it was? I think what it was is that in high school when I studied European history, what they did was they focused on the good parts, right? Which was the Renaissance period. They didn't talk about the origins. They didn't talk about the Dark Ages, really. We focus on the goddamn Renaissance. Only the good stuff. Alright, I already came here. There should be another one. Where's this last piece at? I thought it was in this building. There it is. It's right here. It is. It's in here somewhere. Is this it right here? No, I did this one already. It's not that one. Maybe it's in here. It's up. Okay, it's up here somewhere. I gotta find a way to get up there. Got me flying around as a pigeon. Alright, I'm trying to find it. Let me remove this one because this one's throwing me off. Okay. And now it's gone. Alright, you know what? I ain't gonna take too long. I'm about to just go into something else. Alright, so I guess we're gonna have to take a break from the goddamn... Oh, you know what? I like war and politics anyway. I should have just went right into war and politics. There we go. Alright, so I read the Witan. Oh, no I didn't. Alright, here we go. So in Anglo-Saxon Britain, it was expected that kings and queens would be counseled by a group of powerful nobles, the Witan. The Witan, or wise men, would gather in an assembly, or Jamaat, or Gimat, to advise the ruler on their decisions. This is like, oh man, what's the West African equivalent? I need the Pan-Africans over here to help me with this. There's something just like this in West Africa. Alright, you know what? I'm going to ask the AI. We're going to get these answers. Hold on. In Europe, there was something called the Witan, which were advisors to the king. What would be the equivalent in medieval West Africa? Damn, did she not hear me? She didn't hear me. Let me read this. In Anglo-Saxon Britain, the kings and queens was counseled by a group of powerful nobles called the Witan. Now, in medieval West Africa, what was the equivalent?
In medieval West Africa, particularly in the Mali Empire, the equivalent to a council of nobles was the Gabara, or Great Assembly. This was a deliberative body that advised the Mansa, or emperor, on important matters of state, including legal, military, and economic issues.
Alright, that was not what I was looking for. I got a different word that's, you know, on the tip of my tongue that I just can't remember it right now. So this is why eventually I'm going to have to go back into my West African history, man, because I'm trying to make comparisons here. And I just can't remember what they were called. But anyway, what are we looking at? This is a painted miniature of a ruler sitting in justice with his counselors around him from the Old English Hexateuch, 11th century, British Library, London, UK. It's pretty cool. It's a miniature. What's this conical thing they're wearing on their heads? That's what I want to know. The Witan was made up of aristocrats from both secular and religious backgrounds. There were noblemen and archbishops, aldermen and abbots. Depicted in this illustration at the ruler's side, the Witan acted as his counselors. Their advice was meant to ensure that the ruler's laws were just and worthy. The presence of the Witan meant that lawmaking was a group activity. As with any group project, the better the team worked together, the better the final product. If the king and the Witan had a difficult relationship, the system could break down. For while the king could summon the Witan could also summon the king. If a king was ignoring the Witan and their advice, the Witan might challenge his laws. The king and the Witan needed to find a healthy balance of power between them so that laws could be passed quickly and efficiently. You know what? Let's do something more pertinent. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How can I assist you further?
So, if the Witan was a council, like a group of counselors to the king, and they could summon the king, and the king could summon the Witan, what would be the equivalent in modern United States government, civics?
In the modern United States government, the equivalent to the Witan would be the relationship between the president and Congress. Both have the power to summon each other, so to speak. The president can call special sessions of Congress, and Congress can require the president to report to them, as in the State of the Union address. Like the Witan, Congress plays a crucial role in advising and checking the power of the president.
I'm cold with this shit, man. I ain't, that's why my channel is my favorite channel on YouTube. Alright. So that's the Witan. They basically like Congress. I read this one, I believe. The Feared. Let me see. Did I read The Feared? Dang, I probably didn't. Hold on. See, I gotta remember it off the top, because as soon as you hover over it, like watch, boom, it takes it away like I read it. I didn't even go into it. I wish they would all stay up until I click into it. Now this battle, I heard about this battle. This is a very important battle in European history, the Battle of Edington. The Battle of Edington. Let's go into the Battle of Edington. So it says a key event in English history was the Battle of Edington, or Eddington. There, King Alfred of Wessex led his men against those of Guthrum, a strong Viking chieftain whose men had dwelled in and plundered the West Saxons' land for several years. Now I'm guessing Wessex is the region of those West Saxons. So in this map, each solid arrow represents an advance, while the dashed arrows represent retreats. The red is King Alfred's forces, and the blue are the Viking Guthrum's forces. So let's see how this, well, it actually breaks it down for us. So the red is King Alfred and the Saxons. The blue is going to be the Vikings. Let me look at this. So the blue are advances. So wow, wait, hold on. You know what? Let me let it break it down. I'm going to let it break it down. So each number corresponds to a specific event. Number 1 was January 878. So let's look at number 1. So this is number 1 over here to the left. January 878, King Alfred and his men were chased from Chippenham by Guthrum's army. So I'm guessing this up here is Chippenham in the north. They were forced to retreat to the marshes of Athelney, where they built fortifications to protect themselves. So they retreated down here in the bottom left. So this is Chippenham. Down here in the bottom left is their fortification in Athelney. Alright, so then we move to number 2. In the first week of May 878, Alfred secretly called a levy at Egbert Stone. Men from neighboring counties answered and joined the king and his retinue. Okay, so 2 is the levy at Egbert Stone. So this is Egbert Stone over here. And I can also see 4 is going to be another fortification. Okay, so now Then we get to 3, Guthrum, which is the Viking leader, chieftain, informed of the gathering of the Fyrds, the English militia, readied his troops to intercept the coming enemy and moved to the ancient fortifications of Bratton Camp south of Chippenham. So now they took Chippenham, right? They ran the Saxons down to Athelney, right? Now, then King Alfred comes back. He calls up some peoples. And now they move east to this stone, Egbert Stone. The Vikings become aware of it. And now the Vikings start to advance. All right, so now, on the 12th of May, 878, the two armies met in battle on the fields of Edington. So they had a fight here. Oh, actually, it's right here. They put the 2 axes where they had the battle. So again, this is the Anglo-Saxons versus the Vikings right now. So that same day, the Anglo-Saxons routed the Vikings. The chieftain Guthrum fled and retreated to Chippenham. This defeat marked the end of his reign as a Viking chieftain. So they lose the battle here in Edington, and then they retreat back to Chippenham. It goes on to say, people who enjoy fantasy novels and movies might be interested to learn that this whole narrative was very probably a source of inspiration for J.R.R. Tolkien in The Lord of the Rings. Oh, shit. Okay, so this might be what The Lord of the Rings was inspired by. The Battle of Edington. And y'all want to know what's so crazy? I ain't never saw The Lord of the Rings. I'm one of those people, right? Whenever I hear a movie is super popular, so for example, I never seen Black Panther either. Why? Because everybody was talking about it too goddamn much. I never saw Squid Games. All these movies that were probably hyped up at one time, I promise you I never seen it. There was only one that I seen recently. I can't remember what it was called. But whenever there's a super hyped up movie, I be like, nah, man, I'm not messing with that. I'll wait till the hype die down, then I'll go watch it. So it's been like goddamn 25 years. I still ain't seen Lord of the Rings. My aunt used to watch it though. I would see it on, but I never like sat and watched the whole thing. Black Panther, I still ain't never watched Black Panther. All those like, you know, like the super black movies that was coming out a few years ago, I ain't seen them yet. There was even a Spider-Man movie. I ain't see the Black Spider-Man movie. What was it? Squid Games. I ain't see Squid Games. You name it. All those popular movies, I ain't see it. I ain't seen them yet. So I might have to go watch Lord of the Rings. Ooh. Damn, my goddamn back hurt. It's like my rib. Side of my ribs into my back had been hurting. I slept funny last night. Alright. I want to go into peacemaking and peace breaking. So here, look at this. This is beautiful. This is very beautiful, huh? Looking at these things are always so interesting because, yeah, you can get the narrative, right? But if you're just the average person and you don't know the narrative, at the very least, you could look at culture. So, for example, design, right? It's part of culture. What they're wearing is a part of the culture. You can even see the technology of the time. I see they're carrying like torches on the bottom left. I see torches. What else do I see? I see the shields that they were using. I see a cross on one of the shields. So that's telling me that, you know, these people on the right, I'm guessing they're Christian. Unless that cross is a different symbol that predates the, you know, it looks like they're Christian to me. And also the colors. Lots of reds and greens and yellows. Reds, greens, yellows. You see they're still pulling up on the horses. Peacemaking and peace breaking. Peacemaking and peace breaking. Leaders and their men would swear not to fight each other if the other party kept the peace. That is, if neither side broke the agreement. The two sides could also exchange hostages, i.e., members of the group who would be handed over in order to secure the agreement. with the understanding that if the peace was not kept, the other party would dispose of the hostages. Wait, hold on. Wow. Wow. So this is, if I'm reading this correctly now, it sounds like, it sounds backwards to me, but I understand it. In the same regard, I totally understand it. It sounds like it's, you know what? I don't want to get too reliant on the AI, but it sounds like this, right? We come up with an agreement. A part of that agreement is I'm going to give you hostages. Is that what it's saying? Or is it saying the hostages I already had from your camp, I'm going to give them? No, I don't think it's saying that. Hold on. Leaders and their men would swear not to fight each other if the other party kept the peace. That is, if neither side broke the agreement. I understand that. The two sides could also exchange hostages, i.e., members of the group who would be handed over in order to secure the agreement, with the understanding that if the peace was not kept, the other party would dispose of the hostages. Y'all understand why that sound backwards to me? It sound backwards according to how we do it today. Like if you talking about Israel, Hamas, they're coming up with a peace agreement, and a part of the peace agreement is they're giving up the hostages that they had already kidnapped, right? Or prisoners, whatever the hell you want to call it. In this case, it sounds like it's saying it would be like if Israel and Hamas came to the table, Israel said, we're going to give you hostages, and Hamas said, we're going to give you hostages. Is that what this shit is saying? And if they broke the agreement, then Israel or Hamas would dispose of the hostages that was given to them. That's what it sounds like to me. Alright, at first, Christianity did not profoundly change this conception of peace. Instead, peace eventually required that a leader and his men become Christian, since Christians would only trust other Christians. Even then, it didn't mean that peace couldn't be broken in the aftermath of the baptism. In this scene from the Bayeux Tapestry, Conan, the Count of Brittany, gives the city's keys to William, the future king of England, as a way to surrender and make peace. He giving the keys. He giving them the keys. He gave him the keys to the city. Hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Keep the peace. Secure your people. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, huh? Man. Oh, let me, I gotta update this real quick. Scheduled. Yeah, I know I be getting paid while I'm on live. Oh, so grateful. Alright, so this piece, you know what? I'm not leaving until I understand this. Hold on. We're gonna bring this goddamn AI out. I'm on my truest scholarship. AI everything, nigga. I gotta ask the AI if it's alright for me to take a shit. That's that truest scholarship. AI everything. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. What do you need help with?
Alright, you're gonna help me understand this paragraph, right? Because to me, it sounds like it's saying that in order to secure the agreement, each side would give up some of their people. So let me read it to you, and you tell me if you agree with that.
Sure. Go ahead and read the paragraph to me, and I'll help you understand it.
Alright, it says, leaders and their men would swear not to fight each other if the other party kept the peace. That is, if neither side broke the agreement. The two sides could also exchange hostages, i.e. members of the group who would be handed over in order to secure the agreement, with the understanding that if the peace was not kept, the other party would dispose of the hostages. Okay, so that's the end of the paragraph, and this is dealing with the context of medieval Europe.
Got it. The paragraph is explaining that in medieval contexts, leaders and their followers would swear an oath not to fight each other as long as both parties kept the peace. To ensure this agreement, they could exchange hostages. This means members from each group would be given to the other side, serving as a guarantee. If the peace was broken, the hostages could be harmed or executed by the offended party. So yes, it does imply that each side would give up some of their people to secure the agreement.
Damn, see, that's what I was saying, y'all. That's what I was saying. That's what I thought. It just didn't sound right to me, even though it makes sense. Wow. Wow, man. Oh, that's dope, man. Yeah, that's dope right there. See, that's what I thought. But when you hear that, you're like, wait, they're giving up their people? Like, they're like, yo, we're going to give you goddamn Conan over there. Conan, get your ass over there. You going with the goddamn Saxons. And then on the Viking side, it would be, what's the goddamn Viking name or whatever, Norse name? You know, some shit. Get your ass over there. You going with the goddamn Saxons. That's crazy. I wouldn't want to be volunteered. Let me ask her another question. How did they decide who they would give up as hostages?
In medieval times, choosing hostages was a strategic decision. Typically, hostages were individuals of high status or importance to ensure their safety was valued. They could be nobles, relatives of leaders, or individuals whose loyalty was crucial. The idea was to ensure that the families or groups would not break the agreement, fearing harm to their loved ones or valuable members.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
Hey, I'm really feeling the whole AI virtual assistant thing, man. You know, especially when I be reading stuff. Now, a lot of people, they lazy. They don't read shit. They just ask the AI for everything. That's not me. I ask for clarity, and I ask for deeper context when I do my shit. But that don't make me better than nobody. I'm just saying. Well, it do make me better, actually. That's why I'm saying it. But let's go. Let's keep on going. Horses in warfare, baptism and victory. It's crazy, man. I didn't think I'd get into this, but I'm really enjoying this goddamn European history. It's good. It's some good stuff. It is some good stuff. Hold on, y'all. I'm responding to a text. Alright, so let's get into some more information. And if you haven't hit the like button for me, please, appreciate it. That's the least y'all could do. Oh, man, this is a good one right here. This is a good one right here. Alright, so this is called Scouts Before the Storm. Alright, and this is dealing with the Vikings. Warfare. So before invading a territory, it was important for would-be conquerors to learn the lay of the land. The Vikings first sent scouts and traders to gather information on the places they intended to raid. Now, what this reminds me of, y'all know how you be watching the news and maybe you hear about a couple got snatched up in Iran because they are thought to be spies, right? Or you watch the news and it's in California, 3 Chinese got snatched up because they thought to be spies. That's essentially what they was doing in medieval times. They would send a trader, right, a scout, before they would go pillage. So this is an excerpt from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, the B text. It's the first known mention of an attack involving Scandinavian traders, and is dated anywhere between the 10th and the 14th century. This is from the British Library, London, UK. Now I can't read this. So I can't help y'all on that. But maybe once I start to learn medieval Latin or whatever the hell this is, I'll be able to offer some insight on what the original text says. But until then, we're going to have to just rely on a breakdown. So according to the 789 Annal of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles seen here, the first Viking raid on Anglo-Saxon soil took place many decades before the advent of the Great Heathen Army. Viking scouts would travel to a region, observing and trading with locals. This was done to gain insights not only on the land itself, but its power structures and politics. The Vikings used this knowledge to decide whether they should attack an Anglo-Saxon leader or serve him as a mercenary. They also used this intelligence to plan their eventual invasion. Viking scouts were not always subtle in their spying. Sometimes they left a trail of burned houses and villages. But this was no accident. Vikings sought to intimidate their rivals through violence and destruction. They were fighting a psychological as well as a physical war. They said if we can't serve you, we'll hurt you. Or it's either we hurt you or we could serve you. It sounds like the Vikings, they would give ultimatums. It also said that they weren't as savage as people, we think them to be. They would give ultimatums before they would just pillage or raid or run down on the kingdom. Did I go into military organization? Military organization. What else is in here? What was a king? I like this one. What was a king? And I think I'm gonna close out on this one, even though there's so much information there that I want to get into. But let's do this one. What was a king? The Anglo-Saxon word for king was kinning, or sinning, or kinning, the foremost member of a group who represented and symbolized all his kin, family, clan, tribe. At first, Anglo-Saxon kings didn't rule over a territory, but a constellation of social groups. Let's get into it. What we got here? This make me want to get off the game and play some goddamn chess. Shit. Alright, so we got a king and a queen, replica of the Lewis chessman pieces made from walrus, ivory, and whale teeth from the 12th, 13th centuries, somewhere between there. Alright, y'all, we closing out on this one. This is it right here. I could keep going though, but I think I'm gonna read my book to end the night. So we're gonna close off on this right here. The notion of king in the early Middle Ages differed from one region to the next. One factor that determined the nature of kingship in a given territory was the size of the royal domain. Kingdoms of Britain, such as Mercia or East Anglia, were much smaller than those in continental Europe. And for context, Britain is an island, so it's separating Britain from the rest of continental Europe in this comparison. For example, the Frankish dominion covered much of present-day France, Germany, and Italy, whereas Alfred's Wessex only extended from the River Thames to southern England. While a Frankish ruler could not visit all of his kingdom, nor could they meet and feast with all the important people in it, Anglo-Saxon kings like Alfred and Guthrum could. This made it easier for an Anglo-Saxon or Scandinavian king to treat his whole kingdom, and everyone in it, as his kin. That being said, this sense of familiarity this social bond did not mean there was no hierarchical distinction between the king and his subjects. A king was still first and foremost a king. Here's an ingenious depiction of a royal couple as chess pieces. And then you got the pieces here. Alright, so I was going to close off with that one, even though I want to go into a little bit more. Let me see. How about this one be the last one right here? Why not? Why not? Trust and oath keeping. Oaths would often be sworn to settle a conflict. In the Christian world, those pledges were generally made on relics or other sacred objects, such as an altar or a book of the gospel. So swear in the Bible, swear in the gospel. So that's where that comes from. Let's get into it. So this here is the Winchester Hanging Bowl, dated between 675 and 725. Hampshire Cultural Trust, Winchester, United Kingdom. Alright, let's read. Oaths relied on trust, but it was hard for Christians to see heathens as trustworthy. If the Vikings swore on a sacred object, as could have served as bowl, they couldn't be trusted to abide by that oath because they did not share the Christian faith. On the other hand, if they were allowed to swear on their own sacred objects, a ring for example, the oath would be committed to false pagan gods that Christians refer to as demons. So the best way to trust each other, especially from the Christian point of view, was to share a common sacred reference. Therefore, conversion and baptism of the defeated heathens was the best guarantee for the creation of this common ground and the condition for mutual trust. This was exactly what happened to Guthrum and his men after their defeat. In order for Guthrum's oath to Alfred to be considered valid, he first needed to convert to Christianity. My question would be this. Did they think that the heathens' conversion was something that was internal? Because anyone could do a ritual or an oath externally, but that does not mean they accept the values internally. So just converting them, to me, I don't really see how you could trust that person still. I don't know, man. Especially if it's a forced conversion. Like, why would that make you trust them? That don't make no damn sense to me. Now what I do understand about it is psychologically, you are forcing them to honor their word in some capacity, whether they believe in the thing they're swearing on or not. You are still holding them accountable, because one, they said they are this thing, and now they're swearing an oath onto the things that represent this idea. But that doesn't mean that they believe it internally. So I feel like it's more so just their word is their oath at this point. It's still very interesting though. Still very interesting. There's a lot to get into, man. Still so much to get into. Let's see. Trying to think, is there anything left in here that is on the same wavelength? with everything else that I read. Oh, yeah, this right here. I could go into this, but I'm not going to. I'm closing this thing out. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. That's what we do. It's the RTG. Make sure you hit the like button, support the channel, subscribe if you didn't subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll be back when I be back. Peace.